what a great day to be a Rotarian. You know, from public service to access to probably the most amazing organizations in town. I'm a proud board member, not only of Rotary, but of Valencia College's foundation for the past 4 or 5 years. You know, Valencia has seen everything, you know, from amazing growth to shutting down their institutions to you know, inspiring the youth into careers that their family backgrounds could have never gotten into. Valencia is a great place for great things to happen. I think it's been led amazingly. You know, in my career in Florida, watching Sandy Sugar march through his paces and do the amazing things that we have. But I think there was a great time for transition. And I think that Kathleen brings an amazing approach to academics, understanding everything that we have. I'm positive that nobody from outside of Orlando could have stepped into this role and understood it better than she does. From being president of multiple campuses to being provost to, you know, her education all the way from Pepperdine, you know, she has truly a national focus, and we are so fortunate to have her here in Orlando and to head one of the most amazing organizations I think we have in town. I bring to you Kathleen Plinske, the newest president of Valencia College.
Well, thank you. It is absolutely an honor and a privilege to be here with you this afternoon. My plan is just to tell you a tiny little bit about my background so that I think you'll understand my passion for the work. It's just a brief overview of what Valencia has to offer and where we're going, and then really spend the rest of the time in Q&A, because I think that that is the most productive use of the time, is to make sure that I'm addressing specific questions that you might have about Valencia. I'm originally from the suburbs of Chicago. And I attended a high school called the Illinois Mathematics and Science Academy, which was a state-funded residential high school. So I had no tuition costs. If there was tuition cost, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to go. But I moved away from home at the age of 14 to go away to this high school. And that was just an absolutely extraordinary gift for me. I'm the first in my family to graduate from college, and I received a full ride scholarship to attend Indiana University, Bloomington. My parents were very supportive of my education, but they said, if you want to go to college, you're going to have to find a scholarship. And I was very fortunate to have done so. And now I think with all of those gifts that were given to me, if I don't do everything that I can to create those opportunities for others, then who am I? So that really is what inspires me in my work and my service at Valencia. I will note that after my doctorate from Pepperdine, I then went on to earn 2 degrees from the University of Florida, so I am a double Gator, and I commiserate. So Valencia has actually, I think, a really interesting history in Orlando and Central Florida. When Valencia was established, we were one of the very last community colleges established in Florida because it really wasn't welcomed by many of the community leaders. At the time, this was back in the 60s, Orlando Junior College existed, and it was a private institution and frankly had discriminatory admissions practices, namely that Orlando Junior College would not admit Black students and would not admit Jewish students to the institution. And there was actually quite a controversy in terms of establishing a public open access community college in Central Florida. But Valencia opened its doors in 1967 and immediately went to work in terms of ensuring that everyone in our community knew that they had access to higher education. And one of our fundamental core beliefs is that anyone can learn anything under the right conditions. Anyone can learn anything under the right conditions. So is there anyone in the room who maybe thinks that you're not a math person? Yeah. So the good news is there's not actually an algebra gene. There really is not. There really is not. I mean, the best example of this is there was a teacher. Actually, you heard Dr. Schubert tell the story that anyone can learn anything under the right conditions. And she said, yeah, but you don't understand. I teach a really difficult subject area, and just some students just cannot get it. And so he said, well, what is it that you teach? And she said, German. And he said, well, then it's a really good thing your students weren't born in Germany. So we come to higher education with years of experiences in school, many of which lead us to think we're not math people, we're not good writers. Oftentimes our students come to us with this belief that they're not college material because that's what they've been told. Directly in some instances, or just the signs and messages that they receive from our community. So that's our work, is to really get our students, our community, to believe that anyone can learn anything under the right conditions. And then it's our job to create the conditions necessary for our students to be successful. So in terms of looking ahead, where we're trying to go, we have 4 bold goals in our strategic impact plan. One is to significantly increase the college going rate in our community. So we've partnered with both Orange and Osceola school districts to set as a goal that 80% of high school graduates will engage in some form of post-secondary education after graduating from high school. That doesn't mean a bachelor's degree. That doesn't maybe mean an associate degree. It could be some of this accelerated skills training. But what we know and what we've seen in the economic data is that our students really need some education after high school in order to have increased wages and in order to be protected from unemployment, as we saw during the pandemic. You'll note that that goal is not a Valencia enrollment goal. For us, it's go anywhere. And our job is to help create that idea in our students' minds that college is possible. Our second goal is for us to have a 5-year graduation rate of at least 50% for students of all races and ethnicities. So let me unpack that a little bit. Hard to publicly state that our goal is for half of our students to graduate. Right now, our graduation rate is about 37%. That is amongst the best in community colleges across the country. So if you look at our graduation rate compared to community colleges across the nation, our students far surpass students' performances at other colleges. And yet I ask you, how willing would you be to send your child to a college with a graduation rate under 50%? So this is a goal for us, and we will achieve it. We will be the first institution in the country also to reduce the opportunity gaps that we see in the data. We right now do see discrepancies when we look at our data by race and ethnicity. And what that tells us is that we have not yet created the conditions necessary for all of our students to be successful. And that's the work that we're engaged in right now. You might also wonder, why are you measuring graduation after 5 years for an associate degree? I've actually tried to stop calling it a 2-year degree because the vast majority of our students attend on a part-time basis. More than 80% of our students work at the same time that they're going to college. Many are taking care of family members, whether it be their own children or their parents or grandparents. So on average, our students are only able to take 2 or 3 classes in a semester. So the students who do graduate tend to graduate within 5 years. Less than 10% of our students graduate within 2 years with their associate degree. I'll tell you, in May, we had our outdoor graduation ceremony because we couldn't have our traditional ceremony due to COVID. And we had a student graduate who started Valencia in 2004. She was a single mom, worked full-time, took 1, sometimes 2 classes a semester, and just kept going. And after 17 years, completed her associate degree from Valencia. By any measure of graduation rate, she would be counted as a failure. What an extraordinary success story. Our third goal is actually preparing our students for success after transfer. So the majority of our students come to Valencia to earn an associate in arts degree, which actually guarantees their admission to the University of Central Florida to continue on for their bachelor's degree. Not all of our students, of course, go to UCF, but the majority of students who do continue for their bachelor's degree do go to UCF. But if you look at all of the different institutions that our students go to, you'll see that USF, University of Florida, go Gators, Florida State University, and other institutions within the state are very popular destinations, as well as institutions throughout the country. And then finally, our fourth goal is that by the year 2030, we would like to have 12,000 individuals earning a career credential each year from Valencia College. And a career credential could be one of our associate in science degree programs that prepare students directly for the workforce, could be one of our baccalaureate programs, but it also could be one of our accelerated skills training programs, which leads to industry certifications that prepare students for jobs that are in high demand and pay high wages right now, where employers are having a hard time finding individuals with those skills. So that's our bold goals for the year 2030. And I'd just like to share 3 points, and then I'll open it up for questions. The first is how important accessibility is to Valencia. So we actually have 7 campuses in both Orange and Osceola counties. Our downtown campus, right down the road, is our most recent opening. That opened literally the fall before the pandemic. So that was not ideal in terms of establishing that campus, but the campus is back open and operational, and we're really building a good community at the downtown campus. Prior to that, we added a campus in the Poinciana community, which is south of Kissimmee. It's actually a really large area. If you're not familiar with Poinciana, it's a large unincorporated area. If they incorporated, it'd actually be the largest municipality in Osceola County. But it's about 80,000 people that live in this community that straddles Osceola and Polk counties. And what we learned from our students is that many of them do not have their own transportation. So they were relying on Lynx buses, and the commute one way for students from Poinciana to the Osceola campus was 2.5 to 3 hours. And we had students on the bus for 2.5 to 3 hours coming to campus, taking their classes, taking that bus ride back home. So it was just so critical for us to add that campus so that students had easier access to higher education. Our accelerated skills training is another way of providing access. In many instances, it's the opportunity cost of going to college that's insurmountable. So if you're working 2 or 3 part-time jobs right now, trying to make ends meet, the idea of going to college for 2 or 3 or 4 years to maybe earn a degree, to maybe get a better job is not in the realm of possibility. So our value proposition with the accelerated skills training programs is, can you come to us for 10 weeks? In 10 weeks, we can get you an industry certification that will prepare you for a job that's in high demand. It will likely lead to full-time employment with benefits. And once you get your life stabilized, you're then able to transfer those industry certifications into college credit and then continue on for a degree if you'd like. You don't have to. At that point, at the conclusion of those programs, you have the skills necessary for really good jobs. The second point that I want to make is the importance of affordability. So just curious, if you know, don't answer, but just curious, how much do you think a degree from Valencia costs? An associate's degree? What do you think the cost of tuition is for an associate's degree? 10?
9.
9. So yeah, I hear it. So 6,000 roughly is the cost of an associate degree from Valencia College. It's $100 a credit hour, and there's 60 credit hours in an associate degree. When I ask this question often in the community, one of the most common answers I hear is $50,000. And I really believe the reason is there's so much media attention to the student debt crisis and the amount of loans that students often take to go to college. And going to college has become synonymous with going into debt. So one of our most important roles is to communicate to individuals that there is an affordable option in our community. In fact, the cost of tuition at Valencia is less than the cost of the meal plan at any state university in Florida. So that's how much of a differential there is. We also are very thankful for the support of individuals and organizations like the Rotary Club of Orlando that support our students through scholarships. So between federal financial aid and scholarships, 40% of our students actually pay nothing out of pocket to go to Valencia. And you can imagine that we have students with significant financial need. So it's not as if they're able then just to go to college and not worry about things, right? Like they're still out working, but they don't have to worry about this additional burden of paying tuition costs. So your support is extraordinarily helpful for our students. Then finally, I would just say the quality of our programs are exceptional. So don't think that just because we're inexpensive, we're not high quality. One of the things that makes us quite different is the importance of personal connection with our students. So the average class size for our classes is about 20 students. For those of you who have attended places like University of Florida, you might remember super large lecture halls, particularly for those first year classes. We don't even have those classrooms you can't even, the most you could fit in one of our classrooms is 35 students. So we really believe in developing that personal connection with students. Our students are able to start at Valencia and go anywhere to continue for their bachelor's degree. And we have a number of associate and science degree programs that lead students directly to employment with about a 95% placement rate and an average salary over $40,000. So it's a very wise investment for our students and their families. And we appreciate your helping to get the word out. At your tables, there's a sheet of paper that expresses some opportunities if you'd like to get engaged and help support Valencia. One of those ways could be teaching part-time, if you might be interested in sharing your experiences, your professional experiences. We have opportunities to mentor students, to serve on our advisory committees for our career programs, as well as, of course, supporting our foundation through scholarships, which you already do. So thank you for that. So we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Believe it or not, a lot of us here are older. We may have master's degrees or PhDs or other degrees, but that was many decades ago. Are there any programs at Valencia for those of us who would like to continue learning?
Absolutely, you would be more than welcome. We have what's called a sort of a personal interest status, so you don't have to be degree seeking. We also have the opportunity to audit classes. So if you really just kind of want to, listen to the lectures, but not actually write the essays, that certainly is a possibility as well. But, the other thing that we have are like shorter term certificate programs. So for example, you can get a certificate now in let's say computer assisted drawing, right? So you can do the building systems. It's 5 classes. You come learn CAD, we've got cybersecurity as another. So there's many different options within technology and engineering technology that I think would be really interesting. Yeah.
I was wondering if you had trouble getting and maintaining a staff and being competitive with other schools. How do you keep your staff there? Did other schools steal them away because they pay more?
Yes, we're especially experiencing that with the pandemic and the you may read on the news about the Great Resignation. We're experiencing a bit of that. I would say that many of our staff stay because they believe so deeply in our mission and in our work and really find that sense of purpose. We try to be as absolutely competitive as we can in terms of our benefits and our salary. But I will say that Valencia is funded 28th out of the 28 colleges in the state of Florida. So in terms of the state funding that we receive, we actually receive the least amount of funding per student. That's just a function of history and politics. And it is, I would say, catching up with us in terms of our ability to really maintain a competitive advantage in attracting and recruiting staff. But we're looking at ways that we can, as everyone is, right? What flexible work options to work from home. What we're seeing is that a lot of our students are preferring to continue engaging with us in a virtual way, even as we've returned to campus. So there may be opportunities for flexibility in work schedules and things that could make a job at Valencia more attractive, even if we aren't able to compete directly on salary.
I work every day in the area of helping our most vulnerable people find economic security. I believe deeply and sincerely, with all the research I've done and all the work I've done in this community, that Valencia College has the answer through your accelerated studies program for economic recovery in not just Florida, but years from now, the nation will look back and say, this model came from Valencia College. So that's a great program.
Thank you.
My daughter she didn't cost me a dime, went the MBA scholarship, and then graduated number 1 in her class of the MBA.
Congratulations.
And but my son, on the other hand, says my daughter's smart enough. What do we do to motivate them?
Yeah. So what we really believe in is helping students find a sense of purpose. So if we can get them into first semester at Valencia, the very first class he would take is called the New Student Experience. And the final project, if you will, is called a final story project. And you have to create a 5-minute presentation describing yourself in 20 years and what's the impact that you're going to make in the world and what's the educational journey that you would need to take in order to get to that place. If before we're able to get them into the classroom, We actually do quite a bit of outreach in our local high schools. We have wonderful partnerships. We have the Horizon Scholars Program, which is one of the items on the document, working with students early, middle school, high school, to get them connected with a mentor. One of the things that we have found to be most effective is when we have current Valencia students going into the high schools or the middle schools or the elementary schools, that peer-to-peer connection seems to be, for most students, most effective. They're much more likely to listen to a 19-year-old who's right now at Valencia than they are to listen to me. So that's been something that's been highly effective. We have programs in construction, advanced manufacturing, transportation, logistics, healthcare, and information technology. So you might be able to interest a student who otherwise isn't interested in sitting in a classroom in coming to learn how to use heavy equipment. And we actually have the computer simulators first. So the first 5 weeks, you can't actually hurt yourself or anyone else, right? But then sort of in the backyard of our campus, we actually had the equipment donated so that students are able to dig with the backhoe and actually use the equipment. And so 80% of that instruction is hands-on. Actually, it's not listening to someone speak. It's not writing essays, which, you know, for many individuals is not something that really speaks to them. So we're trying to create multiple paths of entry based on students' interests and passions.
How do you think we could go about getting more dual enrollment courses taught on high school campuses? And the reason I ask is College Board seems to have the lock on the state funding as far as state-funded SAT tests on high school campuses, and all the kids are pushed into AP. And I mean, broadly pushed into AP coursework. And the kids, they can work their butts off and get an A in an AP class. And if they can't get a minimum score on that one test at the very end of the school year, they don't get any college credit. Whereas if you work hard in a dual enrollment class and you get a minimum grade, then you do get the college credit. And it just seems like, especially if you're trying to close achievement gaps, that there would be a push toward making those classes more available. But since the school loses FTE funding, you know, if the kids go to dual enrollment, from my understanding, it turns out to be dollars and cents. And the children who want to take dual enrollment coursework, they have to be able to have transportation to get from the high school to the Valencia campus, whereas the AP is taught right on the high school campus. And I just don't understand how we can go about trying to bridge that gap as a state. It seems like it's always been there, where the competition for resources outweighs what's best for kids.
So I actually believe that it's much better for students to experience dual enrollment at a college campus or in the online classroom, more so than in a high school classroom, because it is a college class. And so we actually don't offer dual enrollment classes at our campuses. We have the dual enrollment students integrated with the rest of the college community, so they get that full experience. We actually have seen tremendous growth in dual enrollment in both Osceola and Orange counties. Dual enrollment students actually now make up 15% of the students enrolled at Valencia altogether, which is extraordinary. Certainly recognize the transportation challenges, and we've partnered with both districts to actually provide school buses for the high schools that have the greatest need for that transportation. And we actually arrange our class schedules around the high school bell schedule so that students are able to leave campus and come back. Sometimes what we find is that online classes or real-time virtual, which is, you know, connecting by Zoom, is also a possibility where students don't have to travel. So we are deeply engaged with the school districts, and particularly looking at it from a lens of equity to understand which are the high schools that historically have been underserved in terms of opportunities for dual enrollment, and how can we ensure that more students have the chance to participate, because we know that a successful early experience in higher education ultimately leads a student to be more likely to attain that credential in the end.
Could you unpack the statement you made about why Valencia is so underfunded because of politics and history?
Sure. So the Florida college system itself is actually, and has been, declining in enrollment at a time when Central Florida and Valencia has been growing dramatically. So Valencia grew at a time when there wasn't much additional funding put into the system. And so as we grew, it essentially was causing us to receive less and less state funding per student. And then what's happened is there are other colleges who have declined significantly in enrollment, have lost 20, 30% of enrollment, but are still funded by the state at the same level they were 10 or 20 years ago. And so there's not been a rebalancing of state funding. So we're working as closely as we can with our local elected officials in terms of right-sizing that funding. But just as an example, because it speaks to, you would want to have different levels of funding per student to address economies of scale, right? If you imagine the College of the Florida Keys with about 1,500 students, they would have to receive far more state support than we would because we have much more economies of scale. However, Miami-Dade College is, depending on how you look at it, either 30 to 50% larger than Valencia. So using the economies of scale argument, Valencia should be funded at a higher rate than Miami-Dade. Miami-Dade College actually receives more than $1,000 more per full-time student than Valencia does. If that inequity were to be addressed, that would be somewhere between $15 and $25 million increase of state funding for Valencia College. And we're also looking at it in terms of equity and funding across the state in terms of race and ethnicity of our students as well. Yeah.
Like some of you here, I'm a graduate of the University of Florida.
Go Gators.
And I got that diploma 50 plus years ago. And I don't have anything that has appreciated in value more than my degree to the University of Florida.
Yes, sir.
This is true because at the same time, admissions and difficulty getting into the University of Florida has persisted. I couldn't get in there today, but with the help of Valencia, I know how to do it.
Yes.
You go to Valencia first, and you get your 2-year degree, and you study hard. The competition isn't at Valencia what you would find at the University of Florida. Those students have to be the very best to get in there.
And I am proud to say that we admit the top 100% of applicants at Valencia College. And it's funny, and it's also a really important part of our mission, right? And we believe every one of them can be successful and go anywhere they'd like, including the University of Florida.
If I wanted to hire some people, how would I do it?
Well, we'd love to give you many talented individuals. What industry?
Construction.
Okay, so we'll get you connected with Carolyn McMorrin, who's our Assistant Vice President for our career and professional programs. It's actually really neat to attend the graduation ceremonies of our construction programs. Again, it's a 10-week program. We have carpentry, we have cabinetry, heavy equipment, and it's pretty remarkable to attend the ceremony, sit in a room with these students who are going to walk across the stage for graduation. And many employers are in the room, so they've got multiple job offers before they leave the room. In fact, we had to change our curriculum and add a week about how do you compare a job offer if you're being offered $15 an hour with benefits or $18 an hour without. How do you decide which one to choose, right? So again, our community partners have just been extraordinary. I'd love to get connected and get you in that loop.
After our last question.
Very good.
Okay, Alan Schaefer, kind of the way he was talking, we're in the process of hiring people, sales, customer service, transportation, logistics, I heard you say.
Excellent, yes.
I can get people started on Monday, we help find you. I'll give you my business card.
Wonderful.
And let's connect, find us somebody.
Wonderful, absolutely. Very good, thank you so much. And I do think, just in closing, one of the things that we're finding is that we're actually seeing a decline in the number of students that are pursuing an associate in arts degree, which is that transfer degree. We're seeing an increase in the students that are choosing an associate in science degree or accelerated skills training. And I really believe that, generally, I think in our society, folks are sort of losing faith in institutions. And I think before, there was this general sense that if I just go to college and I just get a degree, things are going to be okay, things are going to work out. And I don't think that's the sense anymore. And I think individuals right now are seeing, okay, what's going to be my return on investment? What path is this going to put me on? And what's that destination that I'm working toward? And I believe, particularly as it relates to our career credentials goal, the importance of that connection with employers so that students know what amazing job opportunities there are right here in our local community and a way to make an impact in economic development in Central Florida. So thank you so very much.
Dr. Thank you for your time.